A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our listeners joining in from across the globe. My name is Dr. Ritwik Mishra. I'm the Chief Client Officer at KNOLSKAPE and your host for this edition of The Learning Curve. Now, for those of you who've been following us, you know that at The Learning Curve, we discuss the process and the concepts behind humanizing, personalizing, and futurizing the work, worker, and the workplace with our guests. Now, in a world that is increasingly getting described by several adjectives like uncertain, anxious, incomprehensible, ambiguous, how do we actually prepare leaders that are able to lead organizations and people while being deeply connected in the work and with the workforce? We have the absolute honor and privilege of having a guest that has actually been doing that for the last 50 years. From boardrooms at Unilever and Tata Sons to classroom at IIT Kharagpur to the 20 books on leadership and transformation, he has guided companies to rise and reinvent themselves. Please join me in welcoming R. Gopalakrishnan, one of India's most respected voices on leadership, business transformation, and human-centered growth. We will explore with him how leaders can navigate the delicate balance of technology, trust, and talent. Gopal, a very warm welcome to you to the Learning Curve.
Thank you very much. You've been more than generous in your introduction. I hope I live up to it.
Oh, absolutely. Gopal, we are all waiting to hear your insights and thoughts on the 50 years of experience and also the books that you've written and the immense amount of research that might have gone behind those books. So we are very eagerly looking forward to this conversation. Gopal, before we move into the business end of the questions, we do have a rapid fire section for you that just helps us to get to know you a little better. So if you're ready for that, we can get started with it.
Sure. Go ahead.
All right. So the number one question is one technology that you're most excited about and one that you're very cautious of.
You want to mention two separate ones? Because I can be excited about one, but I'm also the most cautious about it.
Yes,
Which
I
is
thought so.
artificial intelligence. Everybody would say so nowadays.
Absolutely.
I was most excited about computers earlier when I began my career as a
Right.
young systems analyst. But right now, you can't help being excited by AI, but you can't help being cautious by it either.
Absolutely. There's just some very disturbing news that's also coming out in terms of how people are getting a lot dependent on AI from a emotional perspective and then taking extreme steps as well. So you absolutely have right that we have to be very cautious of that. And you rightly said, Gopal, it's all started with computers and somewhere in between the mobile phone came in, the smartphone, and we were very excited about that. But we now know its impact to the next generation that's coming up with the screen time and the dependency on the information that it produces. So absolutely agree. AI, both excited and cautious about. Next question, Gopal. Which of the 20 books that you have written was the hardest to write and why?
In general, the most difficult to write for me was a comma in a sentence. And a comma in a sentence is not about management. It is not about life. It is not about human intuition, which are the theme of many of my other books.
Right.
But it's tracing my family back to 1823, to a small village in Tamil Nadu.
Oh, wow.
Which had a population of 3,000 around 1900, and it's still got a population of 3,000. And I did a lot of anecdotal research, talking to relations before God called them, and wrote that book like a story so that my grandchildren can read and know where they came from. It's called a comma in a sentence because at one stage in the family's development, one person changes the position of the comma and the meaning of the sentence changes completely.
Yes.
That's why it's called a comma in a sentence from 1823 to now.
Wow. That's just beautiful. And I'm sure that it's probably one of the most rewarding books as well for you to personally,
Indeed.
see how the lineage has come about and how generations have moved the families forward.
I mean, my grandchildren are here right now, and they don't believe that people moved around by bullock cart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's completely unbelievable for them, and there was no telephone. So we all have the same experience. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. When you speak to, I have my mother living with us, and she has traveled on palkis and then to the plains. And so the amount of difference that they have seen in the way the world has evolved is just tremendous, especially for your generation and the generations before. It's just a lot of change that has happened in the last 50, 60 years. So we'll go on to the next one, Gopal. Your go-to stress buster after a long day of advising, teaching, or writing.
Exercise.
Nice. Okay. Any particular exercise that you prefer?
I do some yoga. I
Nice.
play tennis. I play golf. I swim. I walk. And I follow the 3-2-1 formula. 3 days tennis, 2 days either golf or swimming, and 1 day walking, and 1 day is optional. So 3-2-1 exercise, it's my stress buster. Even when I travel abroad, as soon as I get off the plane and get to my
Right.
hotel, if I get a chance, I have 4 swimming costumes in 4 different suitcases. I'm always there for a swim if there is a heated pool or whatever.
Nice, nice. And I think that's a great takeaway because a lot of us are in this rush and we have official trips, we have vacations, we have so much work that takes us into the long evenings. And so we use that as an excuse saying, I don't have time. But it's great to see that you are able to take out time out of your busy schedules and make that a priority. And I think in this whole concept of wellness that we keep talking, it's important for everyone to prioritize that. Once you do that, then you'll take out time.
One of the jokes that some of my board members, there are a few companies where I've been aboard for the last so many years, and I skip lunch. And, at that time, when we come to 1, and then at 1 to 2, I go off for a swim and come back at 2 o'clock.
Right.
So while everybody else is sort of had lunch, and they say this is completely nuts, this guy. But I am happier that way.
Yeah. At least you are energized for the post afternoon session, while they are probably not as much.
I don't know about that, but I feel fresher.
Gopal, one habit that you think that every young leader must cultivate.
Exercise. Honestly, I make a fetish out of it.
Right.
I don't preach to people, but exercise.
Nice.
I honestly tell all my children, grandchildren, fortunately, either because of their natural inclination or otherwise, everybody seems to be in line. So I'm happy with
That's
that.
that's nice. I was actually looking at these set of questions and I was thinking, what would I respond to this? And I was thinking more around self-awareness, how important and critical it is for leaders to know who they are, and how do they lead, how do they connect, how do they humanize, personalize, and futurize the workplace. So, and I think that helps then cover any
Of
gaps that
course.
are coming up.
Of course, but that's meant for the Jedi's.
You may want to share that story, Gopal, at this point because I'm sure that our listeners haven't understood that acronym. But please go ahead. That was a lovely anecdote at the beginning.
Well, it's a story that goes back 55 years. I'm a freshly minted engineer from IIT. I joined Hindustan Lever as a computer analyst, and they said I should get grassroots training. So they sent me to work in the field. And there was at that time, 58, 59-year-old, he must be dead and gone now, a Punjabi gentleman who had come up the rough way, the tough way. And he just couldn't believe that a guy with a degree in electronics and who's carrying a slide rule around would deign to go and sell dalda and rin bar in Jalandhar and Amritsar.
Right.
So he asked me a number of questions to dissuade me. And finally he said, हमारे पंजाब में कहते हैं कि तुम लोग जैसे आदमी जेड जेड आई हो. To which, of course, I was further nonplussed. And he said, ये जरूरत से ज़्यादा intelligent. So I think that's the reference Ritwik is making, that very often we need to be more intelligent. There's no doubt about it. After all, artificial
Right.
intelligence is all about that. but other people may perceive you as Jed I.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's where, Gopal, a lot of organizations are also talking about being vulnerable, being humble. Humility goes a long way in being able to connect and become better as a human being. One last rapid fire question, Gopal, then we get into the main set of questions that we have. Your favorite place to think, write, or think deeply or write?
I have a little home in the Nilgiris.
Oh, nice.
That I built not to write, think, but I've used it for that purpose. As I learned how to think deeply and write in the last several decades, and it's a real refuge for me.
Hmm.
I go there and I'm able to sit down. I think all my 20 books were written in
Oh,
part
wow.
in a building which we also, my wife and I, have named Home, which sort of
Beautiful.
also sort of culturally brings out. It's a place for reflection and thinking. That's where I think about self-awareness. If I think
That's
about
where
it
you
at all.
become Jedi. No, but thank you for sharing that. I had a question that I wanted to bring up. With 20 books under your belt, and you know, you're one of the few authors I've met who've written that many books. But I also hear about this writer's block. Have you ever had writer's block, and how did you overcome that?
You know, I've never experienced that writer's block because I write only when I don't have a block.
Yeah,
If you say Bombay is full of traffic jam, then I say no. I go early in the morning to Santa Cruz, and from Santa Cruz I return late in the night
right.
to beat the traffic. And you say, have you had experience of dense traffic? And I say no, because I leave at 6 o'clock in the morning and I come back at 10 o'clock in the night. So I am constantly dreaming and thinking in my head. And when I feel aroused intellectually, then मेरे पास कुछ कहने की है, then I sit down to write.
Right.
Mind you, I don't want to give the impression that I'm some perfect machine. There are occasions,
Sure.
but I've not experienced the words used by some very well-known authors that they had to write 10 drafts, tear it up, throw it away, and chew their pencil till they couldn't have lunch anymore. None of those sort of things.
Right. Right.
I'm an ordinary writer trying to write ordinary things. And I am able to work with that.
That's beautiful, Gopal. I think the message there is you're writing from your heart. You're writing when you think you should be writing, and then because of that, it just flows from there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gopal, for indulging in those set of questions. Uh, I want to get us into the main section of the podcast and start talking about the topic that we um, introduced at the beginning of this podcast around being futurizing, humanizing, and personalizing the worker, and the workplace. So I'm going to start us off with the experience that you hold. So you've been a corporate leader for over 5 decades, spanning large organizations like Unilever and Tata Sons, and you have also extensively worked as an advisor to several startup organizations and several other organizations, and also an author. How has this experience shaped your perspective towards organizational readiness in today's day and age, and also the leadership that exists in those organizations?
I think you said personal experience. How has it shaped your views on organization and readiness and leader? In my personal experience, in my first 20 years, I was highly operational. And I think that is important. I'm not advising anybody under 40 to become less than operational.
Right.
Because you have to deliver sales targets, production targets, land goods in the factory, whatever. And I thought management is all about just being on top of things to be done. Make a checklist for the day, keep ticking them off, and find how not to have a long list at the end of the day so that carry over next day, all that sort of stuff. In the second half of my career, I found that that's not what I'm paid for. And there are people to do it. And very often they know a tad more than I, which I was unwilling to accept. And that my job is to sort of think a bit and strategize and so on and so forth. Now, the same thing happens to organizations. Yeah. After all, Tata was a startup, Unilever was a startup, maybe before my time. Not maybe, definitely before my time.
Right.
But then after chasing their tail, they become organizations. And today we tend to dismiss them as large fat bureaucracies, which are not nimble like today's startups are. And I'd say that a leader of the future has tasted success by coming up the operational way, by being a good kida, by doing things and showing that he can exceed sales targets, he can plan customer contacts and all that stuff.
Right.
And when he comes as vice president or president of the corporation, it is human nature. It's not his fault, his or her fault, to repeat what worked for you then.
Right. Right.
Back in your new environment. After all, if I studied hard and got through my higher secondary exam in school, when I go to study BSc or BTech or law, I don't change my studying method.
Right.
I still ratto what I have to and learn what I have to. So that's human nature. Chatti ka naam gadi.
बिल्कुल.
Until you get a message कि भाई ये आगे के लिए नहीं रहेगा, you have to do something different. And that message comes to different people in different ways. And you learn from that. That's human nature. No, but organizations, the brain is centralized, into processes, and they get a bit sclerotic. Who is to change? Now, if you look at simplify government procedures,
Right.
sitting outside government, I'm making a comment. It's very easy to say.
Right.
It is a hell of a job opening a business here. Whatever they may say about ease of doing business, it's a nightmare. I've just made a list of 136 applications you have to make to start a company.
Wow.
And I don't think my list is complete. I have a feeling 136 is just the tip of the iceberg. But nobody in government has ever started a company.
Right.
So they don't have that experience.
Right.
And I have never had to simplify such a dense spaghetti of procedures in my life. People will say, you're lucky you're in Hindustan, but Tata, they're very well organized. So I think future leaders have to learn to be both geologist and astronomer.
Nicely put.
So what do I mean by that? I've got an imaginary cartoon where a geologist is told to take his tools, put it on his backpack, and an astronomer is told to take his tools, put it in a backpack, and both of them are shot into space.
Right.
And they land on some planet. And then they have to report back through telemetry, whatever they are seeing. The likelihood is a geologist will take out his kurpi and start digging.
Right. Right.
And he will get into what is inside this question. And he will report back, I found zinc, I found magnesium, I found water, blah, blah, blah. The astronomer will look up, he won't look down.
Right.
And he'll hold something to his eyes and say, oh my God. And the question he is obsessed with is, what is this planet a part of?
Right. Right.
So we are trained to be successful with what is inside this company. How does marketing work? How does costing work? How does production work? But you come to a stage when you have to look and say, what is my company a part of? And when you make that transition, the ideas of readiness come to your mind. I have to say, regrettably, many people find difficulty making that transition.
Yes.
We all have our difficulties. I'm not saying it's an easy job.
Yes.
But that's the crux.
Yes.
Am I, at the same time, once you become astronomer, you have to still be having the geologist too.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Because if your company runs into trouble and you say, "Main to Akash dekh raha hu, Asman dekh raha hu," it won't work.
Yeah.
So that, I think the geologist transitioning to astronomer and finally being comfortable with both.
Right. Right.
That is the formula for organization.
I think if I can put like a captain or a commander of that ship in this mix of geologist and astronomer, right? That person needs to know both geology and astronomy in order to be able to lead these people and think about the future of what's coming out from the findings and how do you shape the future.
Yeah, if the captain of the ship is the guy supposed to do it. But somebody, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Whether the captain of the ship or the head of NASA down there,
Right.
somebody is supposed to integrate.
Correct.
And the biggest gap in business planning is that the geologist and the astronomer metaphor. I'm not saying it's a wildly innovative concept, but I think it brings together very quickly,
Absolutely.
in a brief way. There are two different skills. Answer the question. I realized this when I came to Tata.
Right.
I spent all my career finding out what's in it. What's in Hindustan Lever Soaps division? What is in Brook Bond Lipton Food division?
Right.
And came to Tata, I was not running a company. There were other people running companies. And I had to ask myself the question, what is all this a part of and what is Tata a part of? And I think the personal development I got out of that has made me quite a different person. Like everybody would be a different person at the age of 65 compared to 45.
Absolutely. Uh, Gopal, if I have to, what you are saying is so relevant to today's day and age in the work that we do with our clients. One of the biggest needs that comes up is the building the capability for the first time managers, right? And that's the transition that you're also talking about is, they believe the way they've been successful as an individual contributor is what's going to help them after they become a manager as well. And they continue in that thought process of engaging at an operational level, and micromanaging maybe. And so organizations often tell us, they're good at what they do from a technical and a domain perspective, but they haven't been able to transition to a people manager, and they haven't been able to make that connect with their teams and help their teams become better. So I think very relevant. Thank you for sharing that story. One thing, Gopal, that you said at the beginning of this response was that they should be able to think a bit. Leaders should be able to take time to think a bit. And I want to go back to some of the things that we discussed at the front end of this podcast. Was they don't have the time. Everybody says I don't have time. Any thoughts, Gopal, on how can we instill that behavior of being able to think? Because from my perspective, thinking is what helps you create new things. Otherwise, you're just responding to what you're being asked to do. Then it's just operational. But if you have to really flourish and do well as a professional, you have to create your legacy. And for that, you need to think. So, any thoughts on how were you doing this at that stage in your career, or how can people in places where they say I don't have time can take out time to create this thinking space?
I don't know. Maybe my training in physics caused me to think in a particular way. I'm just guessing. But I used to think when I was 14 or 12 or whatever that iron is solid. It doesn't have any space. It's heavy. Wood is light. It has lots of space. It can absorb water. But as I studied atomic physics in my degree course, I realized everything is khula hai. They're all empty spaces. Because you say, what's in an atom? You say what's in a molecule? There are atoms. What's inside the atom? There are electrons. What's inside the electron? There are quarks. And what's inside a quark? We don't know yet.
Right.
So there's a reductionist process by which you realize that just like the antariksh, space, is a huge, vast blackness. We think the earth is very big. We think our city is big. Our home is big. But it doesn't count. And that's the same thing with the human mind, human body, the capacities.
Right.
So you can fill it up with a lot of things if you know, or you can engineer them in many ways. And what I have found is meditation helps.
Okay.
This is for me personally.
Yes.
I'm not saying this is a panacea, because when I get up in the morning and I say it's very calm and quiet, if not, I have to push myself to see the calm and the quiet.
Right.
But it's not very difficult if you get up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and you relish the calm and the quiet.
Right.
And that's like saying, hey, there's a lot of the day is full. My mind is occupation in the actual work I'm doing of chasing somebody, whether the stocks are coming or the invoice has been raised, is one fraction of a second compared to the capacity of my brain. That's why your brain can work at 2-3 levels.
Right, right.
At a transactional level, it can work in the second level, which
Right,
is to put facts together and arrive at, and it can work at the third level of looking at the emptiness and how I can use the empty space. That's what I call natural intelligence.
Yeah, yeah.
Artificial intelligence is trying to break that. But I find Vedic wisdom to be very good. I'm not a proponent of the theory that everything was known to Indians 5,000 years ago.
Right, right.
But when I look at Vedic wisdom,
Right,
it says exactly that. There are 4 stages of the mind.
right.
The first stage is operational. I'm using my words.
Sure.
The second stage is operational and the porosity of the operation. And the third stage is when you look Atma Bodha,
Insight.
self-awareness as you call it.
Right.
And the fourth stage is when you realize I am a part of something else. You'll become the astronomer. So if you look at Swami Vivekananda or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or Shankaracharya, they had all reached that fourth stage.
Right.
Guys like me will never get to the fourth stage, but it's nice to know there is a fourth stage.
There is a fourth stage. Yeah, yeah.
If you can do reasonably well up to the third stage, you're okay. So you realize you're a small speck in everything else.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly find energy release, time is available, and your whole attitude.
Right.
You enjoy that moment. It's called mindfulness in the jargon now.
Right. Right.
My grandchildren are here. After I finish with you, they'll come for half an hour. That half an hour will look like 2 hours for me.
True.
Then I'll pack them off because
Right.
they'll go to do their own things. And they're out of my mind, and I'm writing an article or paper or having another whatever.
Right.
So this ability to live in the present totally and yet be ready to transit to the huge antariksh that is around the present is what creates time.
Right.
Now, I can give you pedantic things like write down, take notes, keep a jot pad. You don't need me to tell you that.
To do's and yeah, yeah.
Do's, don'ts,
Yeah.
read X book, Y book.
Yeah.
But they all say the same thing.
True.
You have to be aware of your own infiniteness.
Yeah.
And then you find time is not a constraint. What is time? I mean, time is something like it just keeps passing.
Right.
And it's not that when you say you don't have time, what you mean is you can't catch up with time.
Yeah, yeah. Correct. Correct.
But then these are all a bit philosophical, and I think I'm allowed that at my age.
Absolutely. And we love this conversation, Gopal, because a lot of the other conversations we have are very focused on frameworks and concepts. But I think, it's important for us as leaders also to take time and sometimes go beyond the concepts into this realm. And I think time that what you said is true. It's a self-inflicted fallacy that I don't have time. It's an easy thing to say, but thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And I think mindfulness is a great way for us to inculcate that habit. I'm going to move us to the next question we had, Gopal, which is reflecting back on a book that you wrote, Embrace the Future. The soft science of business transformation. You argue that companies that fail to adapt are destined to perish. What are the soft factors beyond technology and business strategy, etc., that organizations overlook when they are trying to futurize?
It's very much, if I use metaphorically, like human health. When you're 20, you can lead a certain type of lifestyle. At 30, you realize I'm still young, but I'm not like when I was 20.
Right.
And so on every decade. And some people think that age is only a number. And I'm 55, I can still do what I was doing at 20. Good luck to them. But I think your body and your mind and your environment, your Vatavaran, as my Hindi teacher used to tell me, are constantly giving you messages.
Right.
The same thing happens to a company.
Hmm.
So when I was in Hindustan Lever, just I'm taking that as a practical example so
Yes.
that it doesn't look
Sure.
up in the air thing. Or I'll even come to Tata's in a moment. The best known products of Hindustan Lever when I joined was Sunlight and Lifebuoy soap. You know, Lifebuoy had this Samson
Yeah. Yeah.
guy, Mota Tagda,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Sunlight had this Aditya
Right.
symbol. It will wash your clothes white. But then a number of factors, and I don't want to go into the history of Hindustan Lever, told you that this type of soap is going to be dead. It's a question of whether it's 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And the company started adapting to synthetic powders.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's how Surf was launched in 1957 or 58.
Right.
Its sales were very, very minuscule. It probably made a loss. I wasn't around. Then I remember I started my career telling people how to use a powder because the
Hmm.
average person said, "Saab, इससे कैसे धुलेगा? हम तो भट्टी में मारते हैं."
Right.
You know, such an earthy sort of wisdom. And my early training, Jedi, was to bring a plastic bucket, put some surf into it, and tell people would say, "Saab, इसमें इतना झाग कैसे निकला?" I would tell people to take off their banyan
Right.
and wash it in front of them. And निचोड़ के, you'll find, they said, ये कैसे हुआ? इसको तो भट्टी पे लगाया ही नहीं. वहां से शुरू करके we
Right.
moved. And so on and so forth. There are many, many such little episodes that come to my mind. You get the signals, but you don't listen to them. That is what prevents companies from embracing the future.
Hmm.
And all that our book says, none of my book says something which nobody knows. Everybody would say, ये तो जानी हुई चीज है, इसमें कौन सी बड़ी बात है? But हम जानी हुई चीज में ही गलती
नहीं
करते हैं
करते
ना?
हैं सही.
हाँ? We don't follow the
Right.
principles. And embrace the future is just a management way of putting it all together.
Hmm.
With two parts. One is the soft side. We call that the soft side, being watchful of what's happening. And the second part, which is taking actual examples
Right.
of how some companies miss the bus and how some others don't. So I think it's a very, very important thing. Many people who are very busy, as successful as a marketing director, think they're ready to be a CEO. It's a very tough thing. I can't tell him all the stuff that I'm telling you.
Right.
This, you know, astronomer, geology, ये सब बकवास कर रहा है, consultancy fees लेके जा रहा है. But I think it requires to be told.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do through my books.
Yeah.
My books cover subjects like human intuition. When do you use intuition? Is it a panacea? How can I, before I try to be a great boss, how can I become a great subordinate?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because everybody at 25 wants to be the vice president at 30.
Absolutely.
And then we say, आजकल के बच्चे ऐसे हैं. But that's not the point. You are also आजकल के बच्चे.
At some time.
Except you've forgotten it.
Yeah.
So everything is a practical exploration for me.
Yeah. So I think when you look at organizations, we often miss this fact that they are nothing but a combination of human beings. And it's the human that's at play within an organization as it's defining its strategy. And so that's where I think it's important to keep looking at the intuition thing that you're talking about, of what's coming up. How do you be vulnerable? How do you accept that things are changing in the environment or the Vatavaran, as you're saying, and then adapt to be able to adapt to that. But on the flip side, if the humans that are at the helm of things in an organization are not willing to change or see those,
Then you get stasis.
exactly.
I want to give you, it's not an example, but it's a little story.
Yeah, please.
But a true story. All my stories are not are true. So I came back from being chairman of Unilever Arabia, and I was posted as managing director of Brook Pond Lipton.
Right.
This is 1995. And Brook Pond Lipton was the biggest food company in India at that time.
Right.
And had made 8 acquisitions within 2-3 years. So Brook Bond acquired Lipton,
Okay.
merged. Then Brook Bond acquired 2 tea estates, Dumduma and tea estates.
Okay.
Then they acquired Kisan.
Okay.
Then they acquired Quality. Then they acquired Milk Food in Punjab.
Okay.
Then Zahura tomato paste factory in Pepsi Cola's factory.
Hmm.
So when I arrived, I found इसमें हजमी में कुछ तकलीफ है. Because 9 acquisitions in 2-3 years. When the financial guys would say, well, we did PE ratio, this, that, it all looks pretty simple. But when you go out there, guys are saying, साहब हम तो किसान वाले हैं, हमारा ऐसा ही रीत रिवाज है. So there was a Diwali Mela.
Right.
And I must have been in a thinking mood at that time. There was a stall put up by one of our accounts clerks who was doing palmistry. You came, gave $10, and he said, your son will become very big. So I gave him $10, and I said, if I give you the horoscope of a person, he said, just give me birth date, time of birth, I can figure out.
Right.
So I went back to my office and found Brook Bond India, which was the parent company into which everything had merged, was born on 26 September 1912.
Okay.
I remember the date because it's 9 days after my father's birth,
Right.
And I came back and gave him the date of birth. He said, what's the time? I said, yeah, British days, 12 baje hoga, September, October, 12 baje likh lo.
Right.
He came out with a horoscope
Okay.
for the company. And one of the things he said in the company is, this person has been eminently successful for a long time,
Right.
Brook Bond, but this person has started marrying other people and giving his name to them. So it's acting like a man. But he's not happy. But somewhere in the future, it will marry somebody else, but take that person's name. It will act like a woman. It is time for this person to act like a woman.
Wow.
And as it so happened, not because of his prediction, but because of other reasons, Brook Bond Lipton merged into Hindustan Lever.
Wow, that's an amazing story, Gopal. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So, these are intuitive. Now, people accuse me that, oh, you're spreading faith in astrology. I'm not spreading faith. I'm saying all of us have these experiences.
Right.
All of us have. People say, you mean you believe in astrology? I said, listen, would you agree if somebody came and said to you, don't get your daughter married on 14th of October, let it be after 20th?
Sure.
I have not met a single individual of any religion or caste.
Right.
Not that I've checked with everybody. He would say, मैं तो उसका कदर करूंगा.
बिल्कुल.
मुझे उसमें कोई, it's a negative thing.
Right.
I don't believe in it. But the fact of the matter is, we realize there are other factors around us.
Right.
And embrace the future doesn't tell you all this philosophy and these stories. But when I talk to people about the book, I say you have to understand that this whole management technique is part of the human knowledge system.
Correct.
It's a very tiny part
Correct.
of what the human mind actually knows.
Correct.
And if you're not humble about it, I'm afraid it's going to be very tough for you as a leader.
Yeah. I think going back to that whole realization that we are just a very small, minuscule part of the entirety in which we live.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gopal. I'm going to go to the next question that we have. Based on your experience advising startups and large corporates at the same time, what are some of the biggest mindset barriers that you have seen that leaders face in preparing for the unknown future?
I think the feeling that I'm fully aware of what's going to come in the future and I'm prepared for it.
Yeah.
It's much like human beings.
Yeah.
If you go and talk to 100 people at random who are, say, in the age group of 40 to 50,
Yeah.
and they don't know, भाई भविष्य में क्या होने वाला है मुझे पता नहीं है, but मैंने इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी ले लिया, बच्चों का स्कूल के लिए पैसे रख दिया.
Right.
You come down to those sorts of things, which are of course important. But if you say बाढ़ आएगा, बम्बई डूब जाएगी समुद्र में, he says I'm not prepared for that.
Right. Right.
So we are fearful of thinking of extreme that are existential threats. And we are capable of thinking, if I may put it differently, we are capable of thinking of tomorrow and day after in a time continuum. But thinking of next year and year after becomes tougher.
Right.
So same thing happens to companies. नौकरियां चली जाएगी आर्टिफिशियल की वजह से, वो देखेंगे यार, कोई कंसल्टेंट को बुला लेंगे, मैकिंजी से काम करा लेंगे, नोलस्केप को बुला लेंगे, कुछ कराएंगे, और हमारा फैक्ट्री अच्छा चलना चाहिए.
राइट.
हम सूती बनाते आ रहे हैं, जूते बनाते आए हैं, बनाएंगे, खूब बनाएंगे. क्यों? People will always want सूती या जूता.
Right.
Both are right, but both also show. So the point that Embrace the Future is emphasizing is the frequency of your engaging with thinking about the future is very important. Much like a couple who have a daughter who's now, I don't know, 22, 23, 24.
Right.
If the Mia Bibi don't talk to each other,
Right. Right.
कि बेटी की शादी करनी है, वो पढ़ना चाहती है, अमेरिका जाना चाहती है, ये करे वो, मैंने पैसे रख लिए उसको अमेरिका भेजने के लिए, इज नॉट एन आंसर.
Right. Right.
और इसको कल बात करेंगे. This happens all the time. And suddenly Beti is coming and telling you that I found somebody else in some other community. And what you're thinking and I'm thinking are completely different. And then there is a shock.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think you have to engage with the future.
Yeah.
And families, where they talk about it and gradually start shifting and aligning. Will our children marry the same way as we got married 40 years ago, 30 years ago?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
Are there any bounds to, if they come back with a person of Latin American origin or African origin, अरे यार ये नहीं करना, वो नहीं करना,
Right.
We get all sorts of hang-ups we have.
Right.
Companies also have hang-ups.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm telling you too many things, but I think I'm trying to get across the point that when we say our company is prepared for the future, we mean we are prepared for tomorrow and day after.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And we are being human.
Yeah.
And if you engage, I don't know, maybe a NoteScape or a McKinsey or whoever, who says, have you thought of that? Is this possible? Now, when I began my career, which I agree is quite some time back, but in the history of mankind, 50 years is neither here nor there. Every Saturday, I used to go to the bank to get my passbook updated.
Right. Right.
It was a physical visit.
Right.
Standing in a queue, waiting for that guy with the ball pen to write numbers, adding up wrong, then you check his addition. Now, my kids just don't believe that that was the case.
Correct. Correct.
Right? So I couldn't imagine that there will be a day when I don't have to go to the bank at all.
Correct. Imagine that. Yeah.
If I tell you 20 years from now, things that you took for granted, people will not have laptops anymore. They will look at your face, look at your hearing aid, and communicate.
Correct.
You don't know how to respond to it.
Correct.
So engage.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do, even though I am pushing 80, is engage. Keep engaged.
Yeah.
समझ में आए ना आए वो अलग बात है.
Right.
But keep engaged.
Yeah. And I think, Gopal, also engage with the future with an open mind. I think a lot of the times leaders engage with the future with their own
ideas.
Yeah, with their own ideas and overlay that saying this is what will happen and this is how it should happen, rather than saying, okay, this is how the future is shaping and then what should we be doing in response to that.
Yeah, absolutely. If I take some aspects of history which are in the public domain and avoid the politics of it because that's not our subject, when I'm imagining that if I could go to and invoke Vallabhbhai Patel and V.P. Menon, जैसे ये देश कैसा देश रहेगा जब सब अपने अपने कर रहे हैं, महाराजा जौनपुर अपना कर रहा है, महाराजा तिरुनेलवेली अपना कर रहा है. Bring the states together. भाई सब वो करेंगे तो बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाएगा because वो मद्रासी लोग और पंजाबी लोग अलग अलग सोचते. अरे यार उसका रास्ता निकालेंगे, पर देश तो एक होना चाहिए.
बिल्कुल.
And the steps that they took and which we can all read now in books and it's available. And now you can sit down today and criticize that had they not done this, had they not done linguistic states,
right,
everything would have been fine in this country. That kind of bullshit, fine, it's good for politics, it may be good politics, but it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Right? So I think it's extremely important to think laterally about other subjects and management and your industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that your mind gets, that's what I mean by engage and
Yeah.
what you mean by an open mind.
Yeah.
Engage with an open mind
I,
is a mantra.
I think what you said is getting practiced in some places. I hear Walt Disney, for example, benchmarking itself against companies from other sectors and not from the media company or from the entertainment industry. And so you're really expanding the horizon and looking at how other sectors are coming up,
Sure.
and then taking that learning. So, Gopal, just moving us along, I'm going to go back to another one of your books, Pivots for Career Success Unleashing People Power, which was written in 2021. It focuses on individuals navigating fast changing environments. How can organizations personalize leadership and career growth for their people while maintaining scale and efficiency and growth?
You know, scale and efficiency come at a later stage after innovation.
Hmm.
I have to make the better mousetrap first in a laboratory before I can sell 1 million mousetraps and claim I got market share of 50%.
True.
When you if you start looking for, it's like a 3-year-old child. If you say, I want you to win Wimbledon, there are people running courses. When your child at 5 will be quoting Shakespeare. When your child if you want your child at 7 to understand Ramanujan mathematics, here is a.
Right.
Those are all, according to me at least, crazy schemes. Why should your child at 7 understand Ramanujan mathematics? Nobody told Ramanujan.
Right. Neither
It
did
was
he say
something from
that.
inside. Neither did he say that. So I think understanding that innovation is an early stage of life and scale and maturity is a later stage of life. And a company must be able to raise, if I may use the word, businesses, if I take them as children. You may have a Vanaspati business, you may have a soap business, you may have the Tatas have a motor business, they have an insurance business, they have a software business. Each child must be allowed to exploit its full potential. And Tata is a remarkable example of this, where it started as a textile company.
Right.
And figured out that textile will go out. It went out of textiles. It became a steel company. Then it went on to be an electricity company. And then it went on to be a motor company. And then chemicals and software and da.
Right.
And not everything in Tata has been successful.
True. True.
Obviously, it's the job of the company to talk about what's been successful. So just like individuals do this
Right.
in Pivots for Career Success, I may try my hand at hockey and football and shot put. And then I settle down to one of them, or I give up all three and do something else. It's exactly the same metaphor. Individual creativity is what I call innovation. उसका बचपना है कि उसने ये idea सोचा है. And I think if you kill that, I remember even as late as 2007, 2006, with Tata's being in almost every single business you could think of.
Right.
By 2007, I went to Ratan Tata and I said, we missed the pharma bus. He said, yeah, XYZ, these events happened in the past. I said, I got an idea. Why don't we start a pharmaceutical R&D business? Because not many people have the guts to do an R&D business. It takes big money. And he said, come back to me with a proposal. He was encouraging me to indulge in the bachpana.
Right. Right.
He knew we'd make mistakes. We did make mistakes. Okay, it didn't last more than 10, 12 years. But it was no different from Fakir Chand Kohli telling JRD Tata,
Right.
by pressing buttons on a machine, we can get all the data. And JRD said, I don't understand all this. But if you want, and Fakir Chand Kohli said, give me 4 crores in, 1968 money, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'll never come back to you for more money. I'll return this 4 crores many times over. That's how TCS began. And that won't work. So I don't think it's one or the other.
Right.
But how do you raise the child from an idea?
Right.
And I wrote a book called A Biography of Innovations
Mm.
to bring out that the whole process in an organization is biological. It is not physics or mathematics.
True.
And I'm giving you those
True.
as examples.
I think the call out here also, Gopal, is that within an organization, even after starting, you have to have that culture where you are enabling others to the bachpana to keep that going. Don't stop
Exactly.
that.
And Tata's does this just like an Indian joint family.
Right.
You know, the parent is private.
Right.
Very few companies have a private parent.
Right.
So the grandfather, grandmother or great grandfather, great grandmother, वो घर में बैठ के अपना काम देखते हैं, पूजा पाठ करते
Right.
हैं, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the eldest son is called Tata Steel. उसके 2-4 बच्चे हैं. The second eldest is somebody. Air India was a beautiful little girl in the family until somebody abducted her and took her away.
And then returned.
Brought her back when she was 80 years old. क्या आपकी बेटी है, ले लो. Right or wrong, we took back, say, हाँ, कि है तो हमारी बेटी.
Bilkul.
But you can't make your 80-year-old beti into your 16-year-old daughter.
Right.
You go through all the pangs of weight loss,
Right.
beautification, wrinkle lining, and that's going on right now. So I'm a great believer in using the Indian family nomenclature. And yet, every son goes out and says, मैं ये business करना चाहता हूँ.
Right.
If he succeeds, very good.
Right.
If he doesn't succeed, bad luck, try something else. And that's what happens in Tatas. So I think this is how you can allow. Now we are getting into electronics. If Jamshedji Tata came back from his grave, he said, what is all this funny business of putting and making a phone that big? What is a phone anyway?
True.
So you're allowing that to happen while your steel plant in a blast furnace are blasting and blasting
Right.
to save another 0.1 calories per ton of steel. And though both have, you have to find a way.
Right. Right. Both have to coexist.
And many multinationals have this problem. That's why they're all unsuccessful in India. Because they've got a global structure aligned by product or geography or whatever. वहां से फरमान आता है. That doesn't work.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Why do you think so many automotive companies which have global significance, General Motors, Ford, Nissan, Toyota, they come here and Mahindras and Tatas and Maruti. Look at why Maruti Suzuki succeeded.
Right. Right.
Because Suzuki said, आप गाड़ी चलाओ.
Correct. Correct.
Mr. Bhargav, आप बात करो.
Correct. Correct.
The Japanese का हमको नट वट हम टाइट करके हमको इसको ये काम आता है. बाहर की बातें आप करो.
Correct.
Yes, there are many other factors, Sanjay Gandhi and all that. I won't go into that.
Gopal, thank you for sharing those anecdotes. Really helps us put that perspective. One other question is, what lessons from your time with Tata and Unilever stand out about building cultures? And I think all that we have spoken so far is moving us towards culture, organizational culture, where people feel valued, heard, especially even with rapid changes happening all around us.
There's only one lesson I have learned.
Yeah.
There are probably 100 lessons I can talk about, but we must bring this to a conclusion also shortly.
Yeah.
And the one lesson is, whatever you try, when written on paper, it will look pedestrian. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. So you may call it feedback system, you may call it open session, you may call it bulletins, you may call it CEO's address, you may think of it as a combination.
Right.
But since you use the word culture, I must emphasize one aspect which has not got enough focus, which is the importance of rituals.
Yeah.
No consultant talks about it, no Western book will talk about it.
Right.
Now, you and I are not experts on the philosophical significance of Deepavali or Ganesh Utsav or Holi.
Right.
We have some vague stories in our head. Oh, Holika came, somebody went and killed Rang Bija. That sort of story. How did you learn that story? Was it one of your subjects in school? No.
Passed down.
Granny put you on the lap.
Correct.
And when you were 7, 8 years old, they say, Beta, jaldi se kapde badal ke aao. And then you would ask a silly question, they would give you a serious answer. A few things have stayed in your head. And you try to do the same with your children. I call this rituals.
Right.
They say, नए घर में गए हैं, अच्छा देखो, पंचांग देखो. You may or not believe in panchang, but it becomes a habit.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you grown up and become 40, you say, आज बेजी का, my son has been born. एक पंचांग देखिए, उसका एक नामकरण करेंगे.
Right.
Even if you don't understand. I have done the thread ceremony for all my grandchildren.
Right.
Though I said it's my satisfaction.
Right.
But that's caused them to ask. So I call these rituals of learning. These are lost in modern learning. Tatas and Levers are very good at this. I'll keep to Tatas.
Sure.
देखिए, Tatas have about 1 million people work in Tata.
Right.
And about, if you add the people who are recent alumni, last 5 years, it will become 3 million, 4 million. And if you multiply it by their families, we are talking of almost 14, 15 million people who are Tata connected in some way.
Yeah.
I still meet people who say, Jamshedpur mein paidaish hui thi, main Jamshedpur mein tha. 15 million people can tell you what is the birthday of Jamshedji Tata. What did Jamshedji Tata stand for?
Right.
Mota moti.
Right.
Much like you and I can give a rough story of Holi.
Right.
But we can't be a pravachan. You can't do a pravachan.
Absolutely.
Now, Tata had many rituals which look very pedantic, but it builds a culture. And I think the importance of rituals and culture, I've covered that in this book on Jamshedji Tata that I've written.
Okay.
Which is the most recent book, saying this is a very Eastern way of building a company. Indian way, Eastern way, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's not eulogizing Lalaji.
Right. Right.
Because you've been around for so long. It's eulogizing non-Lalajis, but who are effective leaders. Like Sumant Mulgaonkar, like Nani Palkiwala, like Darbari Seth. So, creating icons, creating narratives, paying homage to some of them, this is the way families are raised. अरे बेटा, वहां पे भास्कर चाचा से बात करो इस बात की, उनको इसका अनुभव है. भास्कर चाचा, चाचा क्या होता है? Why Bhaskar Chacha? Certain things start to fall into place. Right. Next time you want to do something, you say, Bhaskar Chacha se baat karenge. So rituals and narratives and icons are very important parts of culture.
Yeah, and I think...
Chalo, I've told you far more than perhaps you asked for.
No. But loved every minute of it, Gopal. And I think there's just... and we can go on and on and on. And the wealth of knowledge that you have, we can absolutely continue having this conversation. But I wanted to bring this to a closure as well. Gopal, thank you so much for your time and for sharing all the wisdom and the anecdotes. It was lovely to be in conversation with you. And to all our listeners, and I'm sure they'll get immense amount of value listening to this. So thank you again for being with us, and wishing you all the best and all the success in your future endeavors. Thank you.